If you've known that you are meant for a big, successful, thriving, fun, interesting, impactful life, and you're serious about creating that dream life next year, you've clicked into the right video, because I'm going to break down with you today exactly what I used mentally, emotionally, physically, from being a 9-to-5 employee in corporate to a full-time creator and entrepreneur, aka my dream job and my dream life. And here's the thing, this is the most simple my goal setting, my planning has ever been, and this is the most effective, and I don't think that's a coincidence. Ironically, on my dream life, I had to use the most realistic systems and goals to get there. Every year I naturally come to reflection towards December and think about, did I actually make myself proud this year? Did I do everything I knew I was capable of? And last year, at that point, I was spending all of my time working for clients, other people that weren't me. I actually wasn't creating content at all. I almost gave up on it because I wasn't creating the right systems to make it happen. I was nowhere closer to becoming the content creator entrepreneur of my dreams because I wasn't working on it. I had no official business or impact on the community I wanted to help. And although I was a social media freelancer, which was objectively much better than my 9-to-5, I didn't feel completely aligned. I felt like there was something missing, and I was filling that void with shopping, going out, traveling. To be honest, most of my connections were very empty. They didn't have a lot of meaning and depth to them because I didn't have a lot of meaning and depth to me. And I spent money because of the lack of challenge and purpose in my life. 365 days later, and a lot of my simple methods that I'm gonna share with you today later, I completely work for myself. I'm a full-time content creator. I'm also an entrepreneur. I started a brand called where I help other dreamers like you and I to connect, have space for our dreams, and make the plan to make it happen. I'm at 10,000 followers on TikTok. I'm about to hit 5K on YouTube. I got monetized this year. I created my own community and I got to connect with other entrepreneurs that I didn't even know I had access to until I tried. And the biggest thing of all is that I'm learning so much. Every single day I'm learning something new. I started doing French this year. I started singing lessons this year. And these are things I'm genuinely proud to say I'm doing because they're things I've always wanted to do. But this year I finally took them seriously. I first had to be extremely intentional about what I wanted and who I wanted to be. I then had to make a plan, and not just one plan, several, and I'm gonna get to that in a second. And then the most important, I had to stay consistent. I had to show up day in, day out, no matter how I felt. But when you make good systems and we make good plans, this is not as hard as it seems. Also, I wanna mention this is completely imperfectly, and this does not require you to be perfect. This actually thrives off of you being imperfect and being exactly who you are. I've packaged up all the routines and practices I've been doing this year in a cute little system to give to you today because Merry Christmas. I don't know, I feel like 2025 is gonna be a good year and I can't explain it. So we're gonna keep the optimism, we're gonna keep the dreams, but we're also going to apply the action. And that's just not a one video process, that's a whole year process. But this is something you can do every single quarter to ensure that happens throughout the year, not just at the beginning of the year and then you fall off like 3 weeks in. And if you're new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Iffy, I'm 27, I live in Dallas, Texas, and I've been on a quest this year to create my dream life, being a full-time creator and entrepreneur. I make content all around mindset, self-development, and lifestyle that gets you there. And in this series, The Behind the Dreams, I show you the reality of dreaming big and the actual tools that I'm using to get there. That's what we break down in this series. So I'm glad that you're here. Stick around, be sure to subscribe. Let me know if you have any questions. If you also want to follow along with some worksheets, I have everything for you in the description. It's all linked. And best of all, you can create your own quarterly goal Notion template. So you have the exact template that I'm going to walk through today. Before we begin, I want to talk about my approach because I do think it's slightly different. Maybe it's not the most unique, but I feel like it does exclude a lot of the common practices I see, and with reason. Let me explain. There's definitely some popularity with the whole like life 360, like life wheel. And I'm just going to say it. I personally think that that's not necessary. And here's why. At a time when I was very much focused on the plan and not the execution, I found it really fun to dive into all the parts of my life and make goals for every single one. Relationships, work, health and fitness, beauty, friendships, school. And while that sounds fun on paper, I feel like the reality of that is not fun at all. Like having to focus on so many different categories of your life all at once, completely starting over when you're still trying to replace your old habits, I feel like it can tend to be very overwhelming. And most of my approaches with content, with business, with life is just low hanging fruit. Go after the easier things because that's what actually propels progress. And that's a change I made this year, focusing on one thing at a time. And that actually helped me make progress in so many other areas that I didn't even expect. When I was really focused on my business, it made me structure my time. When I was structuring my time, I had room for hobbies like French and singing. And when I did those hobbies, it inspired me for business. And then when I was really inspired by business, it helped me connect and reach out to people and create more friendships. And all of that even led into my romantic relationship with my fiance. I just feel like everything overlaps when you're really passionate about one thing and you go for it. It does affect the other areas of your life. Just like if you were to start going to the gym, you're probably going to start making friends at the gym. You're probably going to have have better focus and productivity when it comes to work. So I do think focusing on one area at a time is a lot better, and you don't necessarily have to pick one category. And I'll show you exactly how we do that without having to exclude areas, but you can't include everything and expect everything to thrive. It's kind of like if you're speaking to everybody, you're speaking to no one. If you're doing everything, are you actually doing anything? And personally, it just leaves a lot of room for error, and it's not very motivating when you're failing at all of your goals. It's easier for you to throw in the towel and be like, see, I can't do anything right, and then just give up like 3 weeks in. We want to avoid that. So we need to do things that will actually bring us progress. And if you're interested more on that prioritization, there's a really good book. It's called 4,000 Weeks. I think there's more of an official title, but this book really talks about how our time is limited and how actually prioritizing can liberate us instead of constrain us. I think a lot of times we think that if I don't give attention to this, like I'm losing something, but we tend to lose more when we don't prioritize. And I also recommend Atomic Habits because this is the foundation of my goal setting, and a lot of like effective goal setting is focusing on habit-based goals and systems. We do not rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. If your environment, if your daily to-dos aren't encouraging you to reach your goals, it's probably not going to happen. Okay, and the second principle that I think is important to note is exactly that, focusing on habit-based goals versus outcome-based goals. In Atomic Habits, James Clear breaks this down very well, but essentially habit-based goals are based on the person you want to be. Habit-based goals are based on process, the thing that you actually have to do every single day, not the outcome. And I think we're so used to setting goals like, I want $1 million, I want $100,000, I want 100,000 subscribers, but that doesn't really give us a lot of action. We don't know what to do with that. That's why making SMART goals, and not just SMART goals, but habit-based goals are better, because when you build habits, they stick, and then the goal happens by default. If I tell myself I want 100,000 subscribers, that doesn't give me any information on what I need to do on a day-to-day basis to get there. But if I say, okay, I would like to have that many subscribers, but I'm not going to make the number the focus of the goal. The goal is to be a good content creator. The goal is to be a quality content creator. That gives me a little bit more information on what I can do next to be that person. If I want to be a quality creator, what do I need to do to get there? And that's where you create habit-based goals. So what are the habits of this person? What are the habits that they do, and how can I do it? So instead of saying I want 100,000 subscribers, I can say I want to create a video every single week, because that's probably what creators who have 100,000 subscribers do. And then for my last principle, we work in quarters. This is something that I feel like everybody should get on, and I don't really know why everyone doesn't get on this, because we think in years. We tend to think I need to do this in an entire year. What do I want to accomplish by the end of the year? But what do you want to accomplish in the next 3 months? Because 3 months is not too long to where you can be lazy and procrastinate, but it's also not super short, so you actually have time to make some progress. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, quarters kind of break up the year. This is something I learned from corporate. Probably one of the only things that I really believe in from corporate is using quarters. Nature is in seasons, and I think we as human beings can learn from that. Every season, life around us changes, and usually we go through a change, especially with the seasons. So why don't we operate in that way? There are 4 quarters in a calendar year, and they typically last around 3 months. The first thing you want to do as a part of your goal setting structure and reset and process is reflecting. I argue we need to reflect almost every single day because there's so much changing subconsciously, internally, but especially at the end of the year, and especially at the end of every quarter. If we're working in these time blocks, you need to reflect on the last 3 months. What happened? What did you not achieve? What do you want to do? What do you want to do going forward? But this could also be applied to the next year in general. But I highly recommend doing it in terms of quarters, because I think it's a lot more actionable, because you're probably closer to the person you were 3 months ago than last year. So these are the set of questions I ask myself every quarter. And again, you can do this for the entire year or just for the past quarter. The first thing I ask myself is what went well. We want to start with positives, thinking about what we achieved, what we're proud of, what were the highlights of this quarter, what were the highlights of this year. Then I ask myself, what 3 things have I learned? I really like focusing on like lessons I've taken away, my takeaways from the quarter, my takeaways from the year, and then how are we going to take that into next year, next quarter? What will you take from those lessons into the next year? What will you take into the next quarter? Because this is very top of mind. We want to focus on what didn't go well. What are we leaving behind? What do we want nothing to do with in this next year? That's very important. Not so you can shit on yourself, just so you know exactly what your life does not look like. Because when you're clear on what you don't want it to be, you can avoid it like the plague. Then I really like this last question because it leaves a lot of room for creativity, fun, like the areas of our life that are not super serious. What are some of the new things that you want to explore in the next year, next quarter? And this is a question that can really get out of us what kind of sounds exciting and fun. While this may not be the #1 focus of your year, it's nice to have like a splash of novelty to keep things interesting. And while all reflection is just fun for me because I love to yap even to myself in my own journal, this is probably one of my favorite parts of the reflection because this is more of like the big picture reflection. I feel like there's kind of the quarterly reflection on a small scale, and then this is like a vision reflection reflection of like, who do I want to be? Like, how can I turn into a new person? And this is exactly what I did last year. And I literally feel like I am the woman that I wrote down that I wanted to be. Of course, there's always room for improvement, but I'm so much closer to that person than I was a year ago. This is where you're going to use an exercise I like to call the future self journaling exercise. This is like the foundation of the vision. What you do is you journal as your future self right now. Basically cosplaying if you were future you 1 to 2 years from now, what would your journal entry look like? You can let your imagination run wild. And if you think, I don't know what I would say as future me, get yourself in a nice quiet room, get yourself a nice drink, whether it's a latte, sleepy mocktail, make sure you're alone, get your candle out, romanticize it, and let yourself run wild with the imagination. What happens here is you give your space to connect with like a wiser, deeper version of you. When we think about our dream life, or we think about a future version of ourselves that's more wise, that's more successful, that's wealthier, whatever the case is, we kind of channel this inner wisdom we all have access to right now. So you think of that person and you think about what does their life consist of? Because in your current journal entries, you write about the problems you're having, how your day went, what you're excited about. You can do that same thing for the version of you who has your dream house, who has your dream career, who's in your dream relationship. What would they be thinking about? What are they writing about? And this is like my favorite way to manifest. A few years ago when I did this, I was writing that I was going to a French class, and I'm literally taking French right now. At that time, I hadn't even downloaded Duolingo. I hadn't even started. This was just something that came out of me. And then a few years later, I'm actually doing that. These things work. Give it a try and let me know what you think. And if you want some extra prompts, I'll list some more in the Notion template. And then, oh my gosh, guys, this exercise, the dream day exercise, I literally started doing this for fun years ago when I would envision my life without a 9 to 5. I would just pretend I just had a free schedule, a free day, no calls, no meetings, no job. What would my day look like? This is also in the Dream Life Starter Pack that I'll put into your Notion template. But this really walks you through what an ideal day looks like to you. And even if you may not be able to start this tomorrow or next month or even next year, it helps you get an idea of what ideal means to you. So I like to start with almost like a blank canvas, which will be in your template, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. What are you doing every point of the day? Maybe you don't even wake up that early. Maybe you wake up at 10 a.m. But you basically want to outline the ideal. My argument is that we should start with the dream life as a blueprint and not try to work backwards, because at the end of the day, this is our life first. We should start with the blank schedule and choose who gets onto it, as opposed to starting with someone else's schedule, and see how we can fit the things we enjoy the most into that. Once you have your dream day outline, you can compare it to your current day and see where the gaps are. As in, maybe the major themes in your ideal day are nowhere to be found in your current schedule, or you can find gaps in your current schedule and start squeezing some of those dream day activities into your current schedule right now. Just hold on to this because we're going to use it in a second. And then for the last part of this reflection, you want to just write down any complaints. This has become a new thing where at the end of my reflections, I just write about anything that I'm annoyed about. This can almost be an extension of the what didn't go well this quarter or this past year and your reflection questions, but just write down any annoyances, things that you just cannot stand and you don't want to see it in the next year. For me, one of these was being constantly overstimulated, or going to events that I don't enjoy, or doing things that I don't enjoy, or constantly being on my phone and going to sleep late. These were things that I just felt were little annoyances. Maybe they weren't a part of my bigger goals, or they weren't major things that didn't go well, but they're just small things that I noticed how it affect my day and that I didn't like. And how you can use that in a productive way instead of just complaining is use that to inspire some of the goals that we're about to create. Okie dokie, I thought we'd get a little bit cozier because we're gonna get into some goal planning. This is a part where you start looking ahead. What do you want life to be like, and start mapping that out. Like I mentioned, we're working in quarters, so we're not gonna be planning what all of 2025 is gonna look like. We're really focusing on Q1. From January to March, what progress do I want to see for that big picture vision? Once you have an idea of what your big picture vision looks like, what you want your future self to be like, what her day is like, what her problems are, then you can start thinking about her day to day. What does she do, and how can I imitate that right now? And the beauty of this is that you can use this as trial and error. That's what I love about working in quarters, is that if something didn't work in Q1 and I really was intentional and I put all my hard work towards it and it didn't work out, I can adjust it for Q2 and I don't have to wait till next year to make big or major changes. Generally, the goal and the North Star is still that version you journaled about, the person you want to be, that ideal schedule. That is still going to be your North Star. But in the quarters, this is where you can get granular on the habits that you build, exactly what you're doing, the small tweaks to your schedule, what time of day you do things. And in the Future Self Goal Setting Guide, there are 3 major questions that kind of help you decide what these new goals are going to be. And that's exactly what we're doing in this step, looking ahead. First, we're going to ask ourselves, who do you want to be? Now that you've done some reflection on the past year and what you want your life to look like big picture, it should be easier to identify exactly who that person is. So what you're going to do is write these 3 characteristics of that person. And this is going to be the foundation of what your goals stem from. You're going to pick these 3 characteristics characteristics, and this is going to help you create a vision statement. This is almost like the vision statement of a company, but it's for this new person that you want to be. So I like to think of characteristics or traits that I currently don't embody, but that I really want. What kind of person is your future self? What would they describe themselves as? This is what you want those 3 characteristics to be. For instance, this could be as simple as like, I want to be a reader. I want to be somebody who has really good communication skills. I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be a business owner. They don't have to be extremely specific, but not too broad to where you don't know exactly where to start with them. Again, they should be coming from the person that you identified in your journaling, and that person is very specific. No matter if you think you're unique or not, it is very unique to you, and that's exactly who you want to build goals off of. Then here, we're going to look at what does that person do. So you're going to look at each of those characteristics that you wrote down and think, what does that person do? If you wanted to be a reader, what do readers do? If you wanted to be a YouTuber, what do YouTubers do? If you wanted to be an entrepreneur, a business owner, what does a business owner or entrepreneur do? What kind of activities does this person engage in? Like, visualize their day, what they're doing. These are the types of things you want to start imitating or putting into your schedule today. Then the last question you're going to ask yourself is, how can you start today? What can you do to really start this process now? And I think we think we're so far away from that type of person, but even if it's small, it makes progress. And if it's small, that's actually a good thing. Anytime something comes up you write down that seems too easy or way too basic, just reverse the trigger in your brain to realize that is a positive thing. That's actually good. You want things that sound doable. You don't want things that sound super hard, because on your worst day next year, would this sound appealing? Would this be easy to do? That's the kind of frame of mind you need to think about, because that's reality. You're basically dumbing it down as much as you possibly can. If you want to be a reader next year, what does a reader do? They probably read at least 1 book a month. Okay, how can I start that today? Like this week, what would I need to do? Maybe you just read 1 page. If 1 page is too much, maybe you read 1 sentence. Literally, I'm talking get that granular, because this stuff actually makes progress. I'm personally a slow reader, and it personally took me so long to get back into reading. And the only thing that helped me get back into reading to where I've read like 5 books in the past 6 months is because I dumbed it down. Reading whole books in a week or a day is just not something that I was capable of at the time, and probably am still not. So every night, part of my habits was to read 1 page. And a lot of times I ended up reading more than that. That was just to trick me into doing it, because reading 1 page is pretty easy. I don't have to be super awake. I don't have to have a lot of bandwidth that day. I can always read 1 page, and I can always definitely read 1 sentence. If you want to be a YouTuber, what do YouTubers do? They're probably posting a video every week on YouTube. What do you need to do to post 1 video every week on YouTube? Or if that's too much, maybe you just need to start with 1 video. How can I get 1 video up? And how long will that take me? You can use every week of the quarter to dumb down that version of what that person does. So if you want to have a video up every week, what do you need to do every single week to have that video up? Maybe you need to spend at least an hour getting ideas, scripting the video idea. Maybe you need to spend another hour in the week filming, and then another 5 hours to edit. Whatever the case is, start getting an idea of what that looks like every single week for you. For some people that might be too easy. For some people that might be too challenging. Start at your level. If having a video up every week was too challenging, maybe I would start with something like every month. In week 1, I create the channel, I do some research. In week 2, I start scripting the video. In week 3, I start filming and editing. And by week 4, I have the video up live. You can break it down to match your realistic schedule and your realistic skill level. Remember, if you're thinking this is too easy, that's a good sign. And the more success you have with that habit, the more motivating it is to continue doing it. So you want to have your first weeks of the month to really go well, to keep you going until the end of the quarter. And if you actually achieve everything before the end of the quarter and you have room left, fill it up with the next level of that goal. Now maybe posting 1 video a month is not that hard. You can go to posting 1 video a week. And how could you do that? And in the template, I would seriously write down every single week, like the plan for each of those characteristics for every week of the quarter. When life happens, you still have a plan of how you are going to significantly achieve that characteristic or that goal by the end of that quarter. And if you're feeling lazy, a hack you can do to do this is using ChatGPT, giving your future self journaling entry and what this person does. Put that all into ChatGPT and ask it, given my future self journaling entry and my future self quarterly goals, write me a weekly plan in detail that will cover every week of this quarter, and make these SMART goals too. And then your last step here is you get to go on Pinterest, put things together on your vision board. And your Notion template, you'll also see the free vision board template that I use every single quarter. I make my vision boards quarterly, again, to go with these goals. Everything I said I'm going to be doing on a week to week, the kind of person I said I'm going to be, I find images that correspond with that are more realistic. Like if I said I'm going to be scripting and writing and filming, I would find pictures of a camera. I would find pictures of me sitting at my desk working. And maybe that's not the most sexy thing, like a new car, a new house, but that is helping me visualize the thing that I said I'm already going to do. And you can even do visualization on a daily level, which is my favorite thing. Think about what you're going to do the next day and like like think about it going well. Like if the next day I had to film, or if I had to script, or if I had to reach out to people and network, I would picture myself like sitting at the desk doing these things and having a good time. The sun is out, like I have my favorite coffee, like whatever visual that you enjoy that's like semi-realistic, like not something like you're in the middle of Dubai and you know you're like with billionaires. I don't know. Picture something that is semi-realistic, but it just enhances the activity to make you excited to do it. That shit actually works. Like if I picture myself going to my chair, my desk, feeling happy and drinking my favorite drink, I tend to actually do that the next day. And I don't know what that is. It's like implanting it in my brain before it happens. All right, and the very last step of this process is making it actionable. I want you to take out your Google Calendar, your physical planner, your desk pad, whatever you use to plan your days and put things on your schedule. This is where you want to start putting in those to-dos literally in your schedule. If you had for you to be the reader that you need to read every single day, you need to read one page every single day, put that as a block in your calendar. Put that as one of your tasks or on your reminders or in your phone to do this every single day. You need to have some kind of accountability system or something that will remind you during the day. The more you do it, again, the more success you have, which is why you want it to be super easy. Put it somewhere that you're going to see it every single time you're supposed to do that particular habit or activity every single week or every single day. And when you put it in your calendar, you tend to see how things fit with everything else in your life and think about, does it really work if I have like an 8-hour day that I'm going to come home at the end of the day and want to do a 3-hour workout? Maybe that's a little bit too much. You might want to fit it in on a weekend or some other time that feels more realistic. And then in this last step, the very last step is to find an accountability partner. This could be somebody like a friend, a spouse, a partner, a parent, whoever, somebody that is going to hold you accountable that you have to report to. What I did with my fiance is we had these bi-weekly check-ins. So we kind of set our goals with each other and we tell each other the goals. So we're naturally being held accountable because someone else now knows about our plans. And then every 2 weeks, we have a check-in with each other where we review our goals and tell each other what progress we've made. I know some people have people that they call every single week to tell them what they did, how well it went, what they did wrong, what they failed at. Just having to have negative reinforcement for not reaching your goals or for not doing the things you said you would do, it keeps you doing it longer. Like having to even report to my fiance, like, oh, I didn't make this progress. And not that they're gonna scold you or that they should, but you just saying like, oh yeah, I didn't meet my expectations. I think it makes you feel like, I don't want to say that again. I want to come to the meeting next time and say that I actually did what I said I was going to do. And that's the kind of system when you have an accountability or your environment is encouraging you to do this naturally. That's when you start to make the progress that sticks. And the best part of this is that every quarter, it's going to be easy to catch yourself when you're falling off. So you don't just start with all this momentum and then fall off for literally the next 6 months. You can pick yourself up again and start over and see like, what didn't work last quarter and how can I change that next quarter? And be sure to mark this on your calendar to do the reset and to start this process all over again. And doing this every quarter, I noticed that things at the beginning of the year that were things I had to force myself to do, that were new habits, like working out, practicing my French, practicing my writing, are like now habits. Like I don't even have to write them down as a goal anymore. They're things that I do automatically or naturally. So this stuff really does stick, but I made everything super, super simple, like reading 1 page a day, like practicing French for 10 minutes. All right, I hope this was super helpful for you. If you want any of the worksheets or the templates, be sure to head to my description for the link. I think we're all collectively just feeling this shift to do more and be better, and I'm excited for us, okay? So let me know how it goes. Let me know what questions you have, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.